Hello there everyone, hopefully you are hearing me. I'm just trying to set up my window which appears to have gone AWOL. Let me just get that back up, there we go. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Do let me know in the comments if you can or you can't. So just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover in this hopefully about an hour today, is file formats, always one that comes up every time, and sort of linked to that one we're going to look at compression as well, so both types of compression. We're going to have a little look at storyboards, including what they're used for and also how to create them. And we're going to also have a look at visualization diagrams, same things, how to create them, how to use them. And then, of course, we're going to have a look at the 12-mark question, which I always figure is the game changer in this exam because it can bring you up by a whole 2 grades, which is quite a lot when it comes to your exam. Now, first things first, we're going to go ahead and have a look at file formats. Now, obviously, I've made this sort of like presentation out of what you guys have suggested in the past and that, but if there's anything in particular you'd like me to have a look at, please do let me know in the comments and I will try and help. I think, hello Bertie, I think that's Bertie. Hi Bertie. Right, let's get started, shall we? So, file formats. Okay, so there's 4 types of things you need to know about in terms of file formats. Images being one of them, video file formats, audio file formats, and animation file formats. Now, the key thing to know about these, there's no magic way of remembering them. Unfortunately, it's just going to be a case of knowing a couple that are good for web or streaming or online based, and a couple that are good for high quality, offline, print, etc, etc. And that's the only way to get around this, unfortunately. Now, the reason you need to know these is because we're kind of doing this exam from a perspective of you working in the media industry, and when it comes to working in the media industry, you kind of need to know when to save your files as one thing over another. Now, when it comes to yes, of course, I'm going to have a look at my maps. That's not a problem. So when it comes to images, so let's have a look. So image file formats, if we split this into, I'm going to draw myself a little line here. If we split this into, let's go on here. So if we split this into web and into, let's go for this one. I had a right old minefield with this last time. So let's go for web, and then let's go for, copy and paste doesn't work for this one. Nope, there we go, wonderful. Right, let's draw 2 boxes. We're gonna go for web, and then we're gonna go for, any other text boxes would be lovely. Oh my goodness, honestly, I had a nightmare of this last time. I need to find a better tool for doing things like this. Anyone's got any suggestions? Do let me know. Okay, web and print. Now, obviously, the typical ones you guys need to know. Images is probably the easiest one. And I guarantee there will be at least one question on file formats in the exam. So with web, the 2 you want to know or have in your back pocket is, let me get my little thing up here again. I see, it doesn't want to draw things today, does it? Hello. A bit better off with a bit of paper and a visualizer or something at this rate. Right, let's try this again, shall we? Let's draw a little text box, thank you very much. Okay, so web ones, your classic ones you've got here are JPEGs. Always a good one to come up with, a good all-rounder, generally used for photographs and other digital kind of like graphics like that. You've also got PNG. Now, a reason you will choose a PNG over a JPEG is that it supports transparency. So that one's really good if it asks you a question regarding logos or something like that. You've also got GIFs. You probably will know them as the little animated characters you get sometimes. But GIFs are great because, again, they also support transparency. And also, I'm going to try and do a little doodly line here, also can come under multiple categories. So if I draw a line from my GIF, also all the way up to here, as you probably know, it also covers animation as well. So you have your little animated GIFs, which is probably what they're known for. However, one of the big limitations with GIFs, they're an old school file format, is that they only support very limited colours. So you'll probably notice if you try and save a photograph as a GIF, it comes out really, really grainy. I'm going to see now if I can show you an example here so you can see what it looks like. Let's have a look for GIF photograph. But you'll see it looks like really, really, really grainy. Let's see what we can find. Terrible examples on this one. I will find an image for you and show you, but it's not a good one to use for photography, but really great for like animations and quick things like that. All right, so let's go over to print, shall we? So let me get another text box up. Generally, you won't ever need to know more than 3, I would say, for either or of these different options. Right, when it comes to print, let's have a look. We have got the classic one here. So if you've done your R082 unit, you're probably going to be all right with this one. You've got TIFFs. TIFFs are a great example of one to use for prints. They can be uncompressed, which means that they have all of their pixels intact and they're the highest quality they can be, which makes them terrible for viewing on the web, but great for printing. Another option you've got, which you may use, is PDF. Again, oh gosh, new line would be helpful. Again, PDFs are really helpful because they're high quality. Another great thing you can do with PDFs is that you can lock them down so they can't be edited, which is really good. But also on the flip side, they can be easily edited with something like Adobe Reader or something like that. So again, they're probably the two I would stick with for print. And again, you usually won't be asked to do more than one over the other. Now, to give you an example of what I mean with the difference between these, I loaded up Photopea earlier and just created this tiny graphic here. It just has a lovely floppy disk, or the save icon as you youngsters know it, and file formats. Now what I've done is I've downloaded two versions of this. One is a print image, which is a TIFF file, and one is a PNG image. Now these are exactly the same size, these are exactly the same image, I just saved it as two different things. But as you can already see here, my TIFF is a heck of a lot bigger than my PNG file. So look, see this one's only 42 kilobytes, this one being 4,500 kilobytes. So this one's going to load significantly quicker than the TIFF image, which is why this one's better for online. But just to prove to you they're the same resolution, we're going into properties and details. We've got 1080 by 1080, and if I do the same with the TIFF one, it is also 1080 by 1080. So it's not the size that's changed, it's just the quality of it. And we're going to talk about compression in a minute. So just to let you know, to be aware of the fact that there is a purpose, so not all images are created equally. So let's have a look. Let's go back to on here. Let's go back to this one and go back into full screen mode again. Now video, so similar again, you've got ones that are obviously suitable for, say, streaming online, like your Netflix file formats, etc. And then you've got your video file formats, which are the ones that you're going to kind of download and burn onto a disk or keep on a computer, for example. Ones that are not suitable necessarily for print, because obviously you don't print video, but you've got your high quality and your low quality. So I'm going to try and create a couple of boxes again, and probably fail miserably. It doesn't seem to like me doing it twice in the same font. So let's go for, I'm going to go for low here, so low Q, and if I click off of this and click back on it again, and let's go for high Q. Here we go, high Q, there we are. All right, so first things first, let's draw my little divider again, terribly. Now low quality, I say low quality, your streaming quality, because naturally, just like with the images, you don't want to have to be trying to buffering a video whilst trying to stream it, because that's just a nightmare. So your low quality are things such as your MP4s, oh, not MP dollar, MP4s. You've also got, what else would be a good one? MP4 is probably the best one to know about. Trying to think off the top of my head now. That will probably do you fine for that one. Right, let's go on to your higher quality though. So there's a few more. It'll come back to me in a minute what other high quality ones are, low quality ones are. Now high qualities, you've got your MOV, which is probably the best one to use in this case, and also you could use AVIs for high quality as well. Again, there's a lot of customization when it comes to compression, which is why we're going to come on to this in a second. Again, you could get asked about any of these in an exam, and in fact you could also get asked about ebooks, which was a sneaky one they threw into the exam a couple of years ago. In fact, my current year 10s got that one as their mock recently, where it asked you about what file format to save for an ebook, which I thought was quite a sneaky question. Right, let's move on to audio very quickly. Similar again on here, so you've got your low quality, so that's going to be like your streaming over Spotify and things like that, and then you've got your high quality, which are ones which are like studio quality, etc., where you're not got to worry necessarily so much about your bandwidth. High quality. And again, ones to talk about with this one I would suggest would be, for your low quality, you've got your friend of the MP4, you've got the MP3. There we go. And for high quality, there's probably a much more efficient way of doing this, so I apologise in advance. For your high quality, you've got things like WAV file formats, which are great for high quality. Now, animations, sort of a little bit different. So obviously we've already got GIF, which we've covered already, but for animation, you've also got things such as, and they're kind of like less supported nowadays because, well, the internet decided to do away with Flash, but you have got, honestly, trying to draw text boxes are an absolute nightmare. Right, here we go. So things you can talk about in your exam are GIFs and SWF files. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've not seen this come up in an exam yet, so there's a chance it might come up. However, animation's less of a thing nowadays, so but it's useful to be aware of those two anyway. So that's file formats in a nutshell. And also, don't worry about making notes or anything. I'm going to send out, or I'm going to add in the description to this video afterwards, all of these resources, as well as last time. For anybody who's not part of my class, I will also be sending out a nice little revision guide, which has got all the topics broken down and some areas you can go to get some help for that as well. Okay, so let's move on now to compression. I've used this excellent scenario. So this is how I always try and describe compression. Now, obviously, it has nothing to do with Disney, and it has nothing to do with Mickey Mouse. So what I try and say is, so imagine your file is that suitcase in the middle there, where it's kind of stuffed to the rafters, and you want to make sure it closes down completely to fit. You've got two ways of doing that, okay? Now, my friend over here, this is Mr. Lossless. We have lossless compression here. It's not how you spell lossless. Let's try that one again. There we go. So we've got lossless compression here. Now what happens here, well, clearly that's not going to let me tap to edit it, is it? I was trying to get ahead of myself here and be organised, and clearly that has just done absolutely nothing to help. So with lossless compression, instead of getting rid of some of the pixels or the data in here, what you do is essentially you squash it down. Okay, so all of those clothes are still in the suitcase, so all of your pixels are still in the image, but you've squashed it down so it all still fits in there together. And the benefit of that is that you reduce the file size, but you can always get it back. So essentially, once you open up that suitcase again, you can always restore it back to its original. You've got all of your clothes there, all of your pixels there. So it reduces the file size, but with no loss of data, or you can say quality on here as well. There we go. I don't know why that's kind of gone outside of the thing. Honestly. There we go. There we are, underneath there. Right, and then on to the other side here, we have my friend Lossie. Now, this wasn't, I was trying to desperately try and find an image that did this. So in this case, instead of squashing all of the data down, we decided to get rid of some of the pixels, okay? So we thought, you know what, we'll just get rid of some of them. And in that case, what we have done, oh dear, lost my cursor now. We have our friend Lossie compression. Here is Lossie. Now with Lossie, instead of squashing it all down, we just tell it when it saves the file to just chuck out some of the pixels. Now we can't see that unless we really zoom in on it, but it makes the file size a lot smaller. However, once we chuck those clothes out or our pixels out and gone away on our holiday, we cannot get them back again. They're lost essentially. So in this one, it reduces the file size, but you cannot restore it back to its original format quality. Oh my god, why is this not going on to one thing? Reduces the file size, but you cannot get it back to its original, oh god's sake, original quality. The data will be lost. No, there we are, data will be lost. I will neaten this out before I send it out to you, don't worry. Okay, so we've got Lossie here and lossless, and that is all you need to know. And that applies to images, that applies to video, that applies to audio. Compression is compression, okay? So you've got lossless, where you can always get it back to its original file size. And then you've got Lossie, where whatever you get rid of is gone forever. Now, a key thing to note here, obviously compression only applies if I am dealing with, I'm going to put this up here, if I am dealing with a raster graphic, a raster or a bitmap graphic. Because if I'm dealing with a vector graphic, I don't need to worry about this, because a vector graphic is not stored as a series of pixels. It is stored as a series of mathematical equations and curves and lines that will just always be redrawn infinitely. So you never have to worry about compression when it comes to vector files. It's only a raster and bitmap thing. So that's another thing to note as well. Okay, so that takes us to the end of our file formats and compression. So what I thought would be really useful now is to have a look at a couple of the past exam questions that we've had on here. Okay, so here's our first example. So Progressive Museums, they take mobile museums into primary schools around the country to bring history curriculum to life using buses and lorries. And they're developing a new product called Life in Rome and Britain. Hands up if you've done this one as a mock before. You've been employed to develop the interactive presentations for the museum. You've also been asked to provide ideas about how it can be promoted. All right, so cut to the chase here. The school's pupils will be guided around the museum using a static map. And another thing I always suggest to you, in fact, my lot, I buy them highlighters, always take a highlighter or something you can highlight the paper with, because there's always going to be clues in the questions based on this. So static map and audio recording. That is terrible highlighting, but obviously you'll be able to do it better. And I'm just going to pan this across here because it's kind of like hiding a little bit of what I want to say here. Right, back on here again. On here. And it also says that it's going to be on tablet computers, okay? AKA it's going to be streamed or it's going to be stored on a cloud, so it's going to have to be a lower quality. So that's your hint there when it comes to choosing the audio recording. Now the audio recording is probably going to be the easier one of these ones here. All you're going to put down on here is MP3. Voila, instant mark. Another one we've got here is a static map. Now this throws people. I know a few people have been thrown by this one in the actual exam, but what you want to be aware of on here is that it is essentially an image, a static map. So it's not moving, otherwise it'd be a video file format. Static means still. So on this one, you're probably going to have either a PNG or a JPEG. Now what I would say to you, although I'm putting two options down on here, do not do this in the exam. Just be bold and be accepting of your decision and just put one down, because if you put two down you'll get no marks because the examiner won't know which one to put down. Okay, now again a note, because a couple of mine did that in their recent mock, only just put one of them down. All right, okay, so that's example one. Nice easy one there, just choosing some file formats. Let's have a look at another example now, shall we? So, second example here. A youth hashtag wants to set up a website that will allow teenagers in the town to find out more information about the centre. The website will include images of the facilities and activities. These images need to be saved for use on the website. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Let me get my highlighter out again. Let's do some terrible highlighting. Right, it's a website. AKA, it's going to be a lower quality when we want to look at that. It's going to be images. Here we go. They need to be safe for use on the website. You see, it's kind of like shouting out to you here, isn't it? Low quality images for the website. Okay, so explain one issue that needs to be considered when deciding what format to use for these images. It's shouted it to you a lot already on here, but essentially, let me just, oh great, try to expand my box. I was trying to get to the very important bit here, and then it's just like 3 marks on this one. Okay, so it's not going to be a one-word answer. 3 whole marks. Right, what you're going to say is, the images need to be able to be viewed online. Oh gosh. So we'll need to have a smaller file size so that they can load quickly. Something along that, and obviously spelt right, will get you the 3 marks on this. You see, I've talked here about the fact they're going to be viewed online, so they need to have a smaller file size so that they can load quickly. Let me chuck an extra break in there, so that, there we go, fits a bit better on there now. Okay, so that's the sort of thing you're going to be looking at on there. And then the next question, another 1 marker here, is just identifying a suitable file format. And again, although it says on here other than PNG, you'll probably be surprised the number of people who put PNG as an answer on here. So again, of something other than PNG, you've got a JPEG. Voila, there we go. Right, check in the chat. Can you do work plans, please? Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of work plan bits we can have a look at as well. Okay, so JPEG other than PNG. So that's a second file format. These are exactly the style of thing you're going to get into your exam, all right? Okay. Storyboards next up. Now storyboards are used for moving products. So it could be a video, it could be a game, it could be a comic book. Although a comic book doesn't necessarily move in the traditional form, storyboard is still used to show it, and obviously animation as well. So in the exam you could be asked any questions on any of these. You could be asked about what the purpose of it is, where it would be used, the content, and creating. Typically it will be one of the either purpose, content, or creation of, sorry, not purpose, uses, content, and creation of. Okay, so here is my example. Now I'm going to link to this video in the comments at the end. It's a really good video because it shows the storyboard shots for the Joker and versus, sorry, not Joker, Batman Dark Knight, versus how it actually looks in the film. So it kind of shows you really nicely how the whole thing comes together and what the whole point of it is after all that. So as you can see, it's a series of diagrams that used to show the sequence and flow of scenes. Now, if they ask you why you would use a storyboard, this is the gold star of answers there. So to show the sequence and flow of scenes in a moving image product. Beautiful. Okay. That is essentially what it is. So it helps explain what's happening in a scene, it helps to plan an animation or video, and it organises the production so they know what's happening in each scene. Oh, hello, there's sirens going by. Apologies, that's a bit loud. Uses, as we've already discussed, films, animations, comic books, computer games, and other multimedia products. Now, what will happen in the exam likely is that they'll give you a scenario that is one of these, if it's to do with a storyboard. So then when they say which pre-production document would be suitable for this, you will know because you will remember me saying films, animation, comic books, etc. And again, if you've done R084, the comic book unit, or one of those ones like that, you'll also have some experience of doing this as well. Okay, so again, let's have a look at some parts, shall we? Here's one I stole earlier. So these are the various parts of a storyboard. Now, one of the first things I always tell my groups to do whenever they get that blank sheet with the frames on it is to number each one of them, because just by numbering them, that'll get you a mark, okay? So numbering your scenes. Things, obviously, not all of them are going to have all of these at the same time. Depends on the context here. So I've got scene numbers, so I've got scene 2, but then I've got the shot numbers here. So I've got 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, 4 of 5. Again, just do that straight off. Instantly gets you a mark. The location, so if it's applicable, where are you actually located at the time? Then crucially, we've got one everyone always forgets, the camera shots, angles and movements. Yes, this applies even if it's an animation because you have the virtual camera. So virtual camera shots and virtual camera movements are really important. Lighting, if it's applicable. Dialogue, now you're not writing your entire script on here because that is what the script document is for. However, it's really important to put dialogue on there anyway. Then we've got just the general content or action, so what's happening in this scene. So you can see in this example here, it's got Johnny lifts right arm and scratches head as Rolf lowers both arms in bewilderment, both looking on smiling. Any music and all sound effects and timing and duration per frame, okay? Now, typically, if you're asked to draw a storyboard in the exam, you've got your sort of 3 scales or 3 tiers of marks. So you've got like a mark band 3, which would be like between 0 and 3 marks. Then you've got mark band 2, 4 and 6 marks, and 7 and 9. Now, to get the 7 and 9, you're going to have to get most of these in your storyboard, okay? So it's worth just sort of drawing it out. Remember, it's not a art competition. I cannot draw, so stick people are fine, absolutely. So it's more about the content in this case, and exactly the same visualization diagrams. The amount of times I have kids going to me, but I can't draw, I'm going to get no marks. Absolutely nothing to do with drawing. Obviously, you know, it helps if you can actually work out what it is, but if it's that terrible at drawing, then that's what your annotations are for. So please do not freak out if you cannot draw. So don't worry about that. Okay, let's move on now to have a look at some examples again. So this is the classic one where it's asking you about the content of a storyboard. Now this one is based on the scenario from Progress Walk. Again, anyone done this one before? And they're developing a smartphone health app to encourage adults to exercise more by walking around. Different buildings and locations will score different points, yada yada yada. We're not interested in that necessarily. So when a player launches the health app on their smartphone, a video will play that explains to them how the app works and what they need to do. Identify 4 pieces of computer hardware that would be needed. Now this question isn't necessarily to do with storyboards, but I thought I'd chuck it in there just as a quick reminder of how the fact we need to know like hardware and software for this one. Now a lot of people when they read this get confused and think about the actual video itself, but that's not what we're doing here. It's asking you about what hardware you would need to create the storyboard. And anyone who's done R082 already, or some of the other ones, will know from your hardware and your resources sections that sometimes it kind of feels a bit obvious what it is. So things that you will use if you're creating a storyboard are as follows. Again, please do not. Alright, so 4 things here. You're going to use, probably going to use a keyboard. You're probably going to use a mouse. You might use a graphics tablet. You're probably going to use a monitor. And there's 4 marks already. So the only thing you wouldn't want to do is just put PC and then put laptop afterwards as well, because they would count as the same thing. Okay, so you can only use like PC or laptop once on this one. But basically think of the components you use every day when you use a computer, and that's what you would get the marks for in this one. So just be mindful of that one. And then the second one is about software. So again, if you have difficulty remembering your hardware, difference between hardware and software, hardware I always think of as in touch it, it's hard, so the physical things you can touch with the computer. Software are the apps and programs inside your computer that run, so they're soft, you can't touch them necessarily. It's a loose analogy, but it kind of works in a way. Okay, so let's have a look at the most appropriate type of software to create the video storyboard. I'm going to my little highlighter again. So software, and again, we're creating the storyboard here, not creating the video, so don't put something like Premiere Pro or video editing software or something. Now, a few people in here might be tempted to put PowerPoint or Microsoft Word, which is probably fine in school. However, that won't get you the mark because we're looking at a kind of a real context here, so as if you were doing this as a job. So things you could put here that will get you the mark is desktop publishing software. However, brands are fine as well. So for example, if you wanted to put Photoshop, you could. If you wanted to put Illustrator, you could. But if you put PowerPoint and Word, you wouldn't get the marks for this one, okay? So if you use a storyboard software, so at my school, we use something called Storyboard. That would be absolutely fine to put in there as well. So brand names are fine. Just be mindful that you can't put PowerPoint and Words because they wouldn't count as like an industry one. So you wouldn't see like actual Disney people using PowerPoint to knock up their storyboards. Just wouldn't be done. Okay, so that's, although not technically about storyboards, kind of encompasses storyboards a little bit. So let's have a look now at an actual storyboard question. Here we go. Words from the planet. So this is a new conservation campaign with the purpose of increasing the awareness of environmental issues, targeted at a wide range of audience, and it's going to use a variety of media to bring the awareness to the issues. Okay, so the crux of the matter here is they're creating storyboards for 30-second films, and they're going to kind of explain these environmental issues. I'm sure they'll get David Attenborough on board. Now, I've kind of put this one up to the side, but the actual aspects on here, and this is a classic one. In fact, my group had this in their mock paper recently. How will camera angles help the production team? How will scene numbers help the production team? How will camera movements help the production team? Now, this is one a little bit like the 12-mark question where they kind of put the people involved in there for a reason. So they want you to reference these people when you give your answers, okay? So camera angles, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller for this one just because I've got a lot of space. Right, let me pop this one in here. Okay, so camera angles, voila. So having camera angles will help the production team. So you literally will put this. So these are 2 marks each, these questions. Camera angles on the storyboard. Oh no, stop. I wish it would know to automatically go wrap around. There we go. Will help the production team know where to set up the cameras or which cameras to bring, etc, etc. So anything like that. So about where to set up the cameras to get the shots needed. Easy peasy. Okay, right, that's number 1. So again, second one, you're going to reference the production team again. So adding scene numbers to the storyboard will help the production team. Oh no, stop not wrapping. Production team know the flow and sequence of the video to ensure it is recorded in the right order. There you go. So that's our classic one from the beginning there, the sequence and the flow of these. Okay, and then the last one, camera movements, which you might think is kind of similar to camera angles. So angle is your up, down, left, right. Movements is, you know, the track, the tilt, the dolly, etc, etc. So camera movements will help the production team, and again it's kind of similar to camera angles in a way. You could say like where to lay the dolly tracks. I'm going to bring this across a little bit so you can see it a bit better. There we are. Where to lay the dolly tracks, You could say where to position the actors for the shots needed, and again which cameras to bring as well would be fine on this one. And this is a classic example of a question you'll get on the storyboard about the purpose of particular points and why are we putting this onto the diagram. Okay, hopefully that's all right. Again, I'm checking the chat, but please do let me know if there's anything that you're not getting or you don't understand, for example, and I can help you out there. Okay, next we have got another exam question here. So this was the School 23. This is the one, again, my year 10s have just had as their mocked. So the script for the final scene needs to be converted into a storybook before it can be given to the animators. Explain the purpose of the storyboard for the animators. So again, this goes back to our one we had a couple of slides ago. Let me show you it. It shows the sequence and flow of scenes in a moving image product. So let me ping back on here. Okay. So again, you've got on here who it's for. They do like to tell you these things. Here we go, animators. Voila. Okay, so the fact it's an animation as well means it's going to have a virtual cameras. So the storyboard, oh dear, the storyboard will help the animators know the sequence and flow of the animations. And you can mention any of the parts here, so it could be enable them to set up the virtual camera properly, to know where the characters should be, anything like that. I haven't spelled characters right there. Characters should be. Really can't spell this afternoon. Should be. There we go. So anything like that. So it's only a 2 mark one, so you haven't got to write masses for this one. There you go, a little gap there might help a bit. So again, look for the clues in the questions about who these are going to be for, and that's what you want to reference. So unless it specifically states the target audience in here, so the end user, and there was one a little while ago, the Roman Britain one, which kind of caught everyone by surprise because lots of people wrote about the primary school children when it wasn't. It was about the actual designers themselves. So just check who they're talking about. So I always recommend a highlighter or a pencil or something to go through it with in the exam. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, shall we? So next up we've got visualization diagram. So visualization diagram is the partner in crime to storyboard. In fact, it's quite useful doing these two together because if it doesn't move, then you're going to be creating a visualization diagram. If it does move, then you're going to be creating a storyboard, but still add some confusion in here. Okay, so again, we're going to look at the purpose, the uses, the content, and then how to create one, because again, very common to be asked to create a visualization diagram in the exam. So let's again have a look on here. So again, use to plan for a static or still image, and it can be a rough sketch or a final design. So the purpose is here, plan the layout of a final static image. Remember, it's static, doesn't move, to show how the final product might look. Provide the graphic designer with enough information to create it. And again, what I always suggest is when you've created your visualization diagram, you should be able to give it to somebody else and they be able to create it or mock it up without having to come back and ask you any questions. That's the sort of level of detail you want to put in there. Now, obviously, in real life, you'd probably be working in a team and they probably would come and ask you questions, but that's just the level of detail that we're going for in this one. Again, uses, anything that doesn't move. We've got CD, Blu-ray game covers, posters, game scenes, comic books, web page layouts, magazine layouts. If it doesn't move, we're pretty cool for this one. Okay, so let's have a look. Here we go. So here's an example of visualization diagram. I actually found this on Twitter, and it's sort of a real kind of one based on like a company. So it's the Hitachi, apologies if I pronounce that wrong, Hitachi. And you can see here, they've got their color scheme, they've got the clear logo, they've got the picture of the train, they've got like light gray, they've got the images of the, you know, what they're going to have it transition from red to white, news and info, the red bar of white text. You've got a real idea here about how this is going to look. So it's a mock-up of a web page, and you can probably go away and have a good go at making it from that one. Things to include on a visualization diagram. Obviously, you've got the content, so images, for example, preferably placement and the size of them. Logos, if it's going to have house style, for example, chuck that on there. Colors, what colors you're going to use, text, again, the position, the style, the size, font name if you've got it, and annotations. That's the key thing. And again, you've got the 3 tiers in, so if you're asked to make one in the exam, the 3 tiers of marking you're going to have on here. You're going to have the mark band 1, so that's the 0 to 3 marks, mark band 2, 4 to 6, and mark band 9, 7 to 9, mark band 3, sorry, 7 to 9 marks. And again, if you want to get those higher marks, which a lot of you will be aiming for, then annotations are going to have to definitely go on there, and in some detail as well. So again, let's crack on and have a look at some exam questions on here. So this is our progressive museums example again. Now they are creating large banner posters to put on the side of the buses and lorries, and you've been asked to create a visualization diagram for these banners. Identify 4 items that could be included in a visualization diagram. So again, this is typically the sort of question you will get on the first page. So this is question 1 will always be, or usually, I'm going to cover myself here, usually will be name 4 things that will go into a mood board or a mind map or whatever the scenario is. So it's usually quite a low level question. So things that can go on a visualization diagram: images, annotations, fonts, colors, logos. There's probably others on here I'm trying to think of already that could go on there. So lots of things you can include on there. Generally, I don't think I've seen you be asked more than 4 on any exam. So as long as you've got 4 in your head, you'll be pretty fine on that one. Can you do file formats? We've actually covered file formats, so if you at the end of this go back, you'll see that file formats are done, and I can see that a couple of people now have requested work plans. So yes, absolutely, at the end we'll go back and have a look at work plans as well. Okay, so next one is going to be a drawing one. No, it's not. The one after that's going to be a drawing one. I put 3 in here. Okay. So back to Progress Walk. So they would like to see some designs for the smartphone health app home screen. So this is a mock-up of an app home screen. Identify the most suitable pre-production document for this purpose. Now again, because it's a app phone screen, we are obviously going to have on here a visualization diagram, because if it moved, then it would be a storyboard. You wouldn't have mood board or mind map at this point, okay, because that won't show you the designs for the app. So mood board and mind map are done really early on, when you're kind of like brainstorming ideas and coming up with like color ideas and etc. So by this point they'll want to see some designs. So this is why you know it's not going to be the mood board or mind map. So always look for those clues in there, because some people might think, oh, no, mood board or mind map's fine, but it won't be in this case. So it's definitely visualization diagram because it doesn't move. And again, why is this one the most suitable? 2 questions. Put it on here. Chuck that on, there we go. So it will allow Progress Walk to have a visual idea of how the health app home screen will look mocked up. There we go. And you can say obviously, and we'll show images, colors, layout, etc. It's probably what I think. Well, I want to have this thing. We'll show the layout. Show the proposed layout, allowing them to make changes if they want to. Now again, if this is an industry you want to go into, you'll get very used to the fact that you'll take your designs to your client, and they will go, oh, I don't like that, I want to change that, I want to change that, I want to change that, and then that'll probably happen several times during the lifetime of your designing phase. So the designing phase lasts quite a long time usually. It doesn't usually happen on the first go. Yeah, it sometimes does, but it allows them to see it before you then spend all the time making it, for them to see what it might look like. So you can think of it as like a, you know, sometimes when you see on films where they have the scale models of the buildings they're going to build. So it's a bit like that. You wouldn't build the building and then they'll go, oh, actually, no, I don't like the colour, or I don't like the size. You obviously create a mock-up first, or a prototype. Okay, and yes, yeah, of course we can do mind maps as well. Absolutely no problem. Right, okay, so on to the last one. Now, I was planning to pre-prepare this one here. So I'm going to have a go, terribly here, of trying to create this one using my trackpad, because I couldn't find a mouse either. Be prepared. Okay, now this again is a classic one of creating a visualization diagram. Now in the exam, you can be asked to create a storyboard, a visualization diagram, a mood board, or a mind map. You generally won't be asked to create a script. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. You'll be asked to review any of the 5, but not create a script, so don't worry about that. So again, let's have a look here. What we've been asked to do. We've got to create a visualization diagram for the contents page for BG Style magazine, and we know that it's going to cover fashion, music and events, and it will also have competitions. Now this I thought was a really mean question. Reason being is that so many kids created the front cover because obviously they think they're going to be creating a front cover, and obviously got no marks for it because it was asking for the contents page. So another reason why it's really important to go through and just read it and highlight it before you start actually, you know, drawing it, because you put in all this effort and create a beautiful design and then get no marks for it. Now again, another annotation I like to use on here is the good old fail technique. So if you're trying to remember, if you're one of people that likes anagrams, prepare to fail. So fonts, annotations, images and layout are key on this one. So I'm going to try on here to very badly now draw a visualization diagram. I don't know if it's, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit this, see if it'll let me have shapes. Right, let's bring shapes in here. At least that way I can at least have a semi-decent rectangle. Right, we'll start by drawing a rectangle. Here we go. Now you'll notice if you get this in the exam that there will already be a rectangular box there. You can either do it in that shape and then put all your annotations inside, or you can draw a separate rectangle inside. It doesn't matter, okay, so don't worry too much. So I'm then going to have another rectangle in here along the top here, so that's going to say contents page. So you can see here, you don't need to be able to draw. And then I'm going to have, let's go for a circular one here. How do I change my shape? There we go. Go for a star here. And I'm going to have a star. Oh my God, that's a ginormous star. That's a big old star. There we go. So star here. And then that's going to say competition. So you see here, placeholders are fine. Like you don't have to be able to draw everything perfectly on here. Competitions. And then I'm gonna have, let's go for some more rectangles on here. There we go. So we've got fashion on here. Oh no, I did not do that right. Oh look, it did automatically draw the box this time. Fashion. And then it's also got, I've completely forgotten already, because that's how old I am now, I forget these things. So we've got fashion, music and events. So I've got fashion, and then I have got music. Yeah, that's fine. Da, da, da. And then I've got music. And then you've got things such as events as well. So let me chuck another one on there. There we go. And then, oh, there we go. Right, events. So what I could do on here is I could also draw a placeholder and say that I want to have, no, I want to change this to a different shape. I might say on here that I want to have a image of a band. Image of band, oh gosh, what did it? Hello, there we go. That having a funny 5 minutes. Oh my days. Right, well, that's helpful. Thank you very much, computer. That is eventually going to say image of band. I will change that later. So once you've got your drawing on here, what you're going to do then is add the annotation. So it's not enough to leave it like this. Leave it like this and you'll probably be like a mark band 1, possibly low mark band 2. All your marks come from your annotations, and this is where you're going to come off of here, and I'm going to say that this is going to be in all caps, and I'm going to go for a, oh that's not how you spell caps, sans serif, and then I'm going to have it in bright red. And then I'm going to say this here is going to be a yellow star. So yellow star on here, and then the text on here is going to be, this is going to be like white neon effect. So you see, this is where you start getting your marks from these annotations. And it doesn't matter if the annotations are on the inside or on the outside. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to finish this all now. What I'll do is I will, once I've finished doing this stream, I'll finish this off. In fact, I'll probably will draw one and scan it in, and then I'll share, again, I'll share these notes with you, so you can come back in the comments. There should be a link to these on there, okay? But hopefully you get the idea now of what they're looking for. So it's not just enough to draw it. You can draw the most beautiful diagram in the world, but again, you need to be able to actually say what it actually is for. Let's have a look at these comments again. Does anyone do R082? R082 is a mandatory, so everyone has to do R082. R087 is one of the optional ones, so not everyone will have done that one. But again, if there's anything you want to know or need any help with it, just let me know. Although most of these videos for R081, I am looking to kind of think of things we can do to help with R082. So just let me know if there's anything I can do to help. All right, I am conscious of time because I do tend to waffle. So we are coming on to the last one now, which is a 12-mark question. Now, the 12-mark question is, I would say, arguably the most important one. So as I said at the beginning, it can get you up to 2 marks. So a case in point, one of my current year 10s who did their mock recently was kind of like skirting along at the end of it with a distinction level 1, got absolutely smashed this one because we practiced it quite a lot in class. Absolutely smashed this one and ended up going up by 2 whole marks, which was amazing. So 2 whole marks, 2 whole grades, and ended up coming out of a merit 2, which is fantastic. So the great thing about this is it's always going to be the same. So once you've mastered the structure, the questions are always going to be the same. It'll either be a review of a mood board, a mind map, a visualization diagram, a storyboard, or a script. And all you've got to do is apply this to the same. Okay, so suitability, they'll always tell you who the document's for and what the purpose of it is, so mention that in there. 2 strengths and why they're a strength, 2 weaknesses, why they're a weakness, and 1 improvement at least, and then again why that's going to be improvement. Follow that structure, cut out any waffle. Again, they don't need you to write reams and reams and reams, and then you're guaranteed pretty much high between 10 and 12 marks. I've seen it myself. It works really, really well, and it's really easy to follow. And it kind of feels like you're cheating by doing 12 marks. I mean, if this was like English, you'd have to write like about 3 pages. Apologies, any English teachers listening to this. Now, other thing to note on here is that it is the only question in the exam that tests your knowledge, your ability to write. So you can't do bullet points. It has to be written in like paragraphs or prose. So you will lose marks if you do that. So again, let's do an example of a visualization diagram. Apologies, I don't know what happened to my formatting at the top here. So we're looking at the Kids 5 a Day campaign. Now they are creating a multimedia website aimed at improving the eating habits. So figure 2, this is figure 2, I just cut that bit off. Figure 2 here is the first draft of a visualization diagram for information sheets. So again, this is what it is. It's information, or it's going to be information sheets about our healthy eating. It's going to be given to the author who will produce the information sheets, and these information sheets will be downloaded from the website. So lots of information here. Okay, so the first thing I always get my lot to do is just find a section of the page, doesn't matter where you do it, and just create this tiny little thing here. So you even do S and W if you want to, strengths and weaknesses, and let's just instantly pick out and write down a couple of notes about some strengths and weaknesses. Now, strengths on here, you've got the title of the information sheet. We've also got the layout of the text, and we have got the placeholder for an image. That's pretty much clutching at straws there. There's not a lot of strengths in this one. All right, so that's that one done. So let's now draw another one for the weaknesses. Honestly, it doesn't like doing this for me, does it? One day I'll master this. One day. Okay, so weaknesses, this is where we can go crazy. So, first of all, there are absolutely no annotations. There are no annotations. So we can put on here no colour, no font. There is no indication of what the image is. No indication of background. Now, you probably wouldn't want much more than this one, okay? There we go. So we've got 3 strengths and we've got 4 weaknesses. We could probably go a little bit further with the weaknesses, but that's all we need for this one. So just scribble that somewhere on the paper. It's just really useful to have it there as you're doing this 12-mark question. All right, so let's now come through and have a look at writing this 12-mark question. So I'm going to draw myself a little box again. And I'm going to make it a bit bigger this time because hopefully then you guys can see. Here we go. Right. Okay, so what I'm going to say is the visualization diagram in figure 2, which is to be given to the author of the downloadable information sheets. That's not how you spell downloadable. Downloadable. There we go. Information sheets is partially, somewhat, whatever, any of those words, suitable. Okay, that's your first bit done. Introduction done. Okay, now we're going to start with the strengths. one strength, you can start with the weaknesses if you want to, but as long as I suggest keeping them together, you can mix and match, but I feel, because obviously you want to make this as easy as possible for the examiner to give you the marks, okay? So this structure, it's why this structure works so well. So one strength of the visualization diagram is the addition of a title. Well, and that's not enough. So that'll get you one of those marks. To get the second mark, you want to say why that is helpful to the author. This is helpful for the author so that they know where to position the title. All right, so that's 2 marks. And then we go on the next one. A further strength is that the designer has included a rough layout for the image and some of the text. And again, similar again, this is helpful for the author. So you're always going to do this for the person who they mention it, not for the target audience and not for the end user. Okay, so they know where to position these elements when creating the information sheet. So again, I've referenced the product in there. Now we're coming on to the weaknesses. However, a weakness of this diagram is the lack of font and color. Oh, that's not color. Color annotations. This may confuse the author as they will not know what color or what these should be, and may get them wrong. Okay, then we have got a second one. Another weakness is that the designer has not indicated what the image should be of. This is not helpful for the author as they will not know what is to go in that box. That is not how you spell what either. Alright, so you see here how easy it was to build that up. So already you're kind of sitting on about 8-9 marks for this one. Just like that, really, really easily. Okay, you've not had to write loads, you followed a really easy structure. So strength Y, weakness Y, weakness Y. Okay, so areas for improvement. I'm going to move this up a little bit now so we can fit this in. There we go. So to improve this visualization diagram, I would suggest that the designer include a house style for kids 5 a day. So if you don't know what a house style is, the house style are the fonts, the colours and the branding used by a particular company. So for example, if you were to think of McDonald's, you would think of red and yellow and the golden arches and that lovely sans serif font they use. If you were to think of KFC, you would think of the Colonel logo, you would think of the red and the white, and the same again for lots of things. So it's the kind of branding and the colours used by a company. And then again, why this would be helpful. This would help the author to choose appropriate images in the final design. And you can add another one if you want to. So you could say that they could also add the text that will be going on the information sheets. There we go. So just like that is a really easy way to get 12 marks. And like I say, it will always be that structure. There'll always be good things about the whatever they give you, and there'll always be weaknesses about it. And it's just picking those out and then putting those into sentences like that. So a really easy way to get 12 marks. So that is the end of what I have got for you. So looking through the comments here, I have got on here mind maps. So mind maps, what is it in particular you'd like to cover? Is it just about creating them, what the purpose of them are? Let me know, and then we can have a look at that one. Same again for the work plans. Is it creating a work plan? Is it the parts of a work plan? Do let me know. And then let's have a look at this next question here. On the visualization diagram, do you have to annotate what effect it has on the client? No, you don't have it. I mean, you can add your justifications on there. So you might say, for example, you would put this image here because it would be appealing, but you don't have to write reams and reams to justify it. But it wouldn't hurt. But the most important thing is having those annotations there and making sure they're relevant. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for you guys to add your comments. Let's have a look for some questions that we can choose. I've got some bits already for let's have a look, see what we've got for the mind map. Okay, let me, I'm going to switch quickly to my other screen, and then I'm just going to very quickly bring up some questions so I can bring up some mind maps for you guys to look at. Bear with me 1 second. I did the R081 exam. It was quite tough. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts considering on 51 out of 60? That's amazing. Well done, you. There were some really mean questions about data protection in the last one, actually. So let's have a look at R081 exam papers. Yeah, there were some really mean questions on data protection. There was 6 marks on data protection. Okay, here we go. No, that's a specimen. Don't want that one. I want the past papers. So I don't know if you know that these exist actually. If you search for R081 exam papers, there's actually a whole list of past papers under this assessment section. Really good for obviously getting used to how these work. So all you got to do is click on here, question papers. Apart from the most recent ones, which are locked, you can see all of the other ones freely without having to you've got the mark scheme and the question papers on there. Yeah, so the January the January 2021 was quite tricky. There was some really mean questions on it. Right, let's have a look at, let's see if we can get something on mind maps on here. So let me just see if there's, so this was the one I had the work plan question on it actually. So let's have a look at the work plan one, shall we? Because this was I thought this was quite a nice question. Right, let me screenshot this quickly. So let me get my snipping tool. There you go, put this on here. And then we will come back to mind map, so don't worry. Right, check that on here. Okay, done. Voila. Right, pop that over there. And then let's go to the work plan on this one. So I've seen a couple of examples where you had to create a work plan. Now bear in mind this was only a couple of years ago, so the chances of it coming up are not entirely high, but it's always useful to be aware of anyway. And as you've got to do R082, you're going to have to create one as part of that as well. So let me chuck this on here. Make this a little bit bigger as well. All right, so the key thing on this one is that there's 12 months to develop an interactive book for this School 23 scenario. So the key thing is here to highlight the particular parts. So all the things you need to know are on there. So there's 5 different animations, which will take 6 months in total to create. And they've only got 2 animators, so they have to create it after they've drawn the 5 main characters. So you've got to draw the 5 main characters. There we go. And the 5 locations. It will take 2 months to draw the characters and 2 months to draw the locations. And if you also look on here, it also says it needs to be tested and proofread, which will take 2 months. So all you've got to do is take that information and pop it into these tasks here. So for example, the task you've got to do on here is you've got to draw the characters. Now you can either start or end with the project itself. So I'm going to do that at the end. So draw, I've got to make it a bit smaller again. Too big, too big. Here we go. So draw characters. Draw characters. Then you have got to, let me come out of here and back on again. Draw the locations. Then you have got, so we've drawn the characters, we've drawn the locations. Now the reason I've done that first rather than the animations is because the animations can't be done until they've done the drawing. So that was one again that threw a few people. They put them in the wrong order. So just be mindful of any prerequisites or things like that. Then we have got on here animate. So draw or create the animations. Create animations. Oh, doesn't fit on there quite right. And then we've got the testing and proofreading on here. So testing and, oh, that's not how you spell it. Testing and put that on the new line. Proofreading. There we go. And then what I'm going to put at the bottom on here is just an overall project length one. Oh, no. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Right, try that again, shall we? There we go. I'm going to put project length. So we want the project to be completed by, so it's going to go live in 12 months, in March the 6th. So I'm going to put on here a lovely little square here. Let's see if we can change the colour. So the project length is all the way from here. Why is that a circle? That is not what I wanted. Let's put that back to a square, shall we? There we go. I honestly know what I'm doing, I promise you. Right, here we go. So the project length is here, and you could annotate on this saying it needs to go live by March the 6th. All right, so draw the characters. That is going to take 2 months. No, I don't want to move the text box. Honestly, there we go. Right, let's do the blue one this time. So draw the characters is going to take 2 months. All right, now these tasks cannot overlap, okay, is the other thing on here. So you want to, they have to be done independently. So characters first, then a further 2 months to draw locations. So they can't be done simultaneously. Again, another thing that tripped a few people up last time. So after those 2 months, I'm going to draw the locations. Then again, after they have been done, then we can do the animations. So again, no overlap on here. So I'm then going to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months doing the animations. And then I'm going to spend another 2 months at the end here. So again, you can't test and proofread it until you've created it. Testing and proofreading. And that is all the marks were for on that one. So you've got marks for having these, the drawing the characters, the locations. You have marks for making sure they didn't overlap. You have marks for having the actual release date on here. You have marks for having these all in the orders. And that was it. So that was like a really nice easy mark one on there. Now, other questions you might get asked are about what the parts of a work plan are. So again, you've obviously got tasks here. Now you've got duration. So obviously this is a long project, but it could be in weeks, it could be in hours. Other things to take note of on here. So let me do some ones that aren't on here. So something that's not on here, milestones. Some milestones are a way of breaking down projects into smaller subsections. So for example, you could have like the planning phase, then you could have the production phase, and you might have the reviewing phase. So in this one on here, you could have the production phase, then you'd have the testing phase, for example. So it's just breaking it down into smaller things, smaller tasks, not tasks, smaller sections. So making the project. They tend to have this on big projects, so milestones are there just to kind of chunk it so you can kind of look back and see what's happening. Then another thing that's not on here is contingency. Now, contingency is if something goes wrong. Now, I did notice a couple of mine did put contingency on some of these, which I thought was really good to see. So these are your what if scenarios. Now, we're not talking Marvel what if here. We're talking what if the computer doesn't work, or what if your animator goes sick, what if you have to shut down the studio, what if. So it's extra time added onto a task in case of an unforeseen event. And another one that kind of comes up, it's come up on a couple of things, is that term workflow. Now workflow, you kind of think of this one as like a little waterfall. So it's the sequence or order that tasks are completed in. So other than that, you've obviously got the tasks themselves. You'll have a duration. So the duration can be, it could be in hours. So it can be like hours, it can be months, whatever's appropriate for the project. In fact, some places it could possibly even be minutes. Then obviously you've got tasks. You might have resources on here as well. So resources, and they are the equipment. God's sake, can't spell today. Equipment, hardware, and software needed to complete a task. task. So generally you'll either be asked to create a work plan, or you will be asked to list some parts of a work plan or explain what milestones are on a work plan. So it's just being aware of things like that. So again, let's have a look, see if I can find something to do with mind maps, and then I will let you all go and enjoy the rest of your day, unless somebody's got any other questions at all. It's probably this where you're in an awkward thing where it's like the end of the lesson and the teacher's like, oh, has anyone got any questions? And there's always that one kid who's got a question and the rest of you are like, oh damn that kid. But in this case, hopefully it might even get you another mark. Okay, here we go. We've got a mind. Oh, this is kind of reviewing a mind map. Let's take a screenshot of it anyway. I won't do the 12-mark question for this one, but it's good to see what parts of a mind map are. So again, this might be in the form of a first question. So it could be asking you what are 4 things that will go onto a mind map. And again, this would be to do with the scenario. So usually they'll say if they're creating a video, so it could be, obviously you've got your main parts, which is your central node, your sub node, and your branches. So in terms of the anatomy of a mind map, we have got central node, and then we have got sub nodes, and then we have got branches. That is not how you spell branches again. Okay, so if I just draw my little line here, so we've got the central node, which is here. Now, if we were doing this as a 12-mark question, vid 1 would be a terrible central node. So your central node needs to be something really useful. So it could be, if you were creating a poster, it could be the name of the poster. So like one of the old R082 assignments was a Glasgow Festival. So it could be that, for example. Your subnodes are those sections that come off of that central node. So again, here you've got character. And again, terrible example here because these are all kind of mishmashed together. And then we have the branches. Now the branches are the little lines that connect all of these together. And usually they would always be connected back to the central node. This again is an example of something that has gone wrong in this 12-mark example here. Okay, so again, questions you might get asked. What is the purpose of a mind map? So mind maps and mood boards, always the purpose of these two. So if you ever get asked in an exam, what is the purpose of a mood board or mind map? You will always say to create ideas or write down ideas or come up with some thoughts on whatever the process. It'll usually give you a scenario for, I'm going to put XXXXX here, so for whatever it is. So it's always about the mind map and the mood board are always done before anything else is done. So way before your storyboard, your visualization, your script. You can kind of think of them as the starters for your pre-production documents. So these are always about idea gathering. So mood boards are more visual, so visual ideas. And your mind map is more for kind of like, it could be about characters in a film, or it could be the colours you might use on a poster, or the layout for things, for example. So anything like that, really. Okay, so I think we've covered the mind maps, we've covered the work plans. File formats again, to that person. File formats are right at the beginning. So once I have finished talking, you can go back and have a look, see at that. Has anyone got any other questions before I let you go for the rest of the day? It's been really great having you part of it. It's lovely to see you getting involved in it as well. I'm not just disappearing. So if you do, after this, think of something you think, oh, damn it, I wish you covered that. As you can probably see, I'm very responsive to comments. So do let me know, and I'll easily be able to create another video going through a couple of other things on there, okay? So unless anyone has got any questions, I will wait a few seconds more because there's a bit of lag on here. I will let you go about your days. Like I said to you before, I will share this with you once I have tidied it up a little bit and put in a proper visualization diagram. Okay, so one last question. How do you do coursework in the subject? Well, I mean, this really depends on your school or your teacher. Some people do R081 and R082 together because they kind of complement each other quite well. But you'll be given a brief. So again, the assignments are on this same website here. Let me go on to set assignments. So set assignments are here. So if you're doing R082, for example, the set assignments are here, R083, 84, etc. So you'll get the assignments here, and it's just a matter of working through them. Now, OCR suggests 10 hours, but obviously that's quite loose guidance. Historically, you've not been allowed to do it at home, so you're only allowed to do it in school under like supervised conditions. But I think during obviously the pandemic, etc., they've been a little bit loose on that. Now that may be changing again soon. So that's one that's probably best to ask. So R081 is the exam. So that's the exam element. So 25% of the course is exam, and at the moment the other 75% is 3 coursework units. So you're probably going to do those either afterwards. I'm not sure. I'm assuming, are you in year 10 possibly? Because that will obviously help on there if you're in year 10, so you've probably got a little bit more time to do it. So for example, my year group, my current year 10s, they are doing R081 and R082 like at the same time, so they've already started making their cover, for example. Yes, you're doing the actual exams. Yes, so that's the same. So you'll probably, whatever your speak to your teacher, you'll probably start doing the coursework afterwards, which is fine. You've got plenty of time yet. And will you post the resources in chat? Absolutely, I will post the resources. They'll also be in the description as well at the end. So, and again, if you think of anything afterwards that you're not sure about, please let me know, and I say I can help. I'll be around if you need anything. Okay, well, I think that is probably it now. So what I will do is I will bid you all farewell. Enjoy your long weekend. I hope you're going to do some fun celebrating. And my lot, I will see you next week. 12 days till the exam. And everyone else, I wish you the best of luck with your exam. I'm sure you'll absolutely smash it. Okay, well, have a lovely day, and I will speak to you later. Goodbye.